don't need a high-end designer or a lot of money to get a luxe look. Be your own interior designer.
This is Affordable Interior Design, the podcast.
Here's your host, Betsy Helmuth.
Hi, everybody. Our bubble just burst. Hooray! If you have been in New England this summer, you know about this heat dome that's been trapping in all the humidity, all this hot air, and then intensifying it day after day till the weather index feels way over 100 degrees and the humidity is beyond. I mean, it's like the South is all summer long. Muggy, oppressive, soupy. You can't even go outside at 7 o'clock at night. It's still steamy out there. And today it popped. The bubble popped and it is 70 degrees and cloudy. And it was a beautiful day to spend at the park with my baby and to take a stroll. And it just felt transformative. So exciting. I hope the weather's exciting wherever you are. We have so much to discuss and so many changes are happening behind the scenes. I have some very important, very major shifts coming up on the podcast in mere weeks. So please stay tuned. We're changing the name. We're modifying the format slightly. We are becoming more and more present on social media with lots of clips and teasers and videos. I cannot wait to share all these updates. As you, my dedicated listeners, know, we've been on the air for 10 years. 10 years doing the same thing week after week. It is time to shake it up. It's time to bring some new energy, some new ideas. And that's what I'm trying to do with this pop culture segment that we're doing in the second half of every show. But I'm doing it in other ways too. So stay tuned, stick with us, spread the word, because now more than ever, I think people will find this podcast and feel like it's content that's exciting for them, that's relevant to their lives, and they will be sending in even more delicious questions for us to answer. Speaking of which, I have some great ones, and I can't wait to dig into the mailbag today and share them with you all month long, because other podcasts, they take a hiatus in the summer. They go on vacation, they live their best lives, and they say, see you in September, just listen to past episodes until then. Not this podcast, not here at Uploft. Here at Uploft, we record year round. And yes, I'm taking a couple of vacations with my family. And yes, I'll be taking a couple of weeks off here and there, but I'm going to pre-record so you have fresh content. Speaking of fresh content, our new episodes drop every Tuesday. And now we have Throwback Thursday episodes. We have so many episodes in our archives, and this information is all still relevant. While trends come and go, the principles and rules of interior design are really the same that I started using 20 years ago. There have been small tweaks to some of the things I like, my go-to paint colors, but overall, I'm preaching the same ideas and rules that I was following way back when. So I think you'll find re-listening to these podcasts will remind you of things and remind you of different scenarios where the solution holds true today. All right, without further ado, let's reach into the mailbag. We have a premium listener that wrote in, and you're saying to yourself, Betsy, how do I become a premium listener? Because there were other questions in this mailbag. She just sent her question in today, and it goes to the very tippy top of the mailbag because she's a premium listener. Yes, that is the benefit of becoming a premium listener, and it is so easy to do. You head over to affordableinteriordesign.com. Once again, that's affordableinteriordesign.com. When you're there, you go /podcast or look for the podcast tab. So affordableinteriordesign.com/podcast. Once you're on that page, you're going to see Become a Premium Member. You click there for as little as $5.99 a month or $29 for 6 months. You are supporting this show. You're keeping us on the air month after month. You're telling us and showing us how much you love us, but also you're getting access to an archive of almost 70 bonus episodes that are only for our premium members. And the other thing is, of course, you get your letter bumped to the top of the mailbag. So excited to share with you. Without further ado, Carmen in Lakewood, California has a question. So Carmen writes, Betsy, I'm trying to decorate my living room, especially the wall above the sofa. I just purchased this sofa along with a faux olive tree, and it is in the corner. I'm including previous pictures of my old gray sofa for you to see the layout. As for the sconces and pictures, I'm not too sure if it's the correct placement or size. Any suggestions are appreciated. So, guys, if you're following along on YouTube, you can see Carmen's pictures live. I will be posting them so you can see for yourselves. If you're driving, if you're doing the dishes, heck, if you're taking a shower, yes, I do listen to podcasts in the shower. I have an amazing speaker, waterproof. Yeah. If you're listening to this in the shower, I'll just describe the pictures for you. So, here we go. So Carmen has got a great start. Sure, this space is very neutral. It has white or slightly off-white walls. It's a nice long living room. She's got a chaise sofa with a walnut wood base, a black drum coffee table with a marble top, a gray rug that's abstract and seems to have different tones of gray, but also a little brown or copper mixed in, an end table that's marble black and walnut. She's got a piece of art above the couch that does appear to be slightly too small. Like, let's just say the couch is 80 inches wide, which it probably is, somewhere between 80 and 90 inches. I would bet a lot of money on that. This picture looks to be 36 inches wide. So normally I would say, no, that is way too small for above the couch, because when we're thinking about a piece of art above a piece of furniture, like I've been preaching for 20 years, you're going to go 50 to 75% of the length of the furniture. So if this couch is 80, this piece of art needs to be 40 inches to 60 inches wide. The height can be variable, and really it's kind of based on the height of the ceiling. And here it looks to be very standard, but it's really that width that's the most important relationship in terms of with the furniture. Now here you have this very neutral landscape. And the entire room seems to be these neutral grays and browns with creams, and then this pop of the olive green that I can also see in this landscape. The landscape piece on canvas is flanked by two sconces. They're two-tone sconces with black and brass and glass holders, if you will, that surround the bulb. So the sconces are kind of what's saving it here, because they're making the moment above the sofa look longer. I do think that they're also kind of making the artwork look smaller, because there's so much room between the artwork and the sconces on each side. Looks like there's almost a foot. So that is concerning to me. I'd rather have it be a little bit of a tighter moment. In other words, the artwork would be bigger or the sconces would be closer to the art. Then you have some metal bar stools that are silver. Now, this is surprising me because we're using gold and black metal, and this silver seems very arbitrary. It seems to come out of nowhere. I'm even peeking in your kitchen, and that appears to be brass in terms of the pulls on the cabinets. So for me, these stools are a big miss, and they feel really incongruous with the other choices. Continuing around the space, you have a rustic dining table with like a black chair. It looks like a black wishbone chair, and then more silver chairs that coordinate with the silver counter stools. And then you've got a brass globe chandelier. So the biggest miss for me is that we're using kind of sleeker, cleaner walnut in the living area. And then this gets very rustic with the table. I wish the table was a little more contemporary and less rustic, because it seems to be one of the only rustic elements in this space. And it does feel to me out of place. The other thing that I mentioned that's out of place, the silver. Get rid of it. Put these chairs in the basement. Put these stools outside, because I'm very familiar with these stools and chairs, and they do work outside. And so that way you're not just getting rid of them, you're reusing them in a certain way, just in a different location. But lean into the brass, lean into the black. I love that you've done the two-tone. And of course, when you're talking about finishing touches in here, you need pillows. You need pillows. I think for my taste, it's a little too drab. I'm not seeing three Roy G. Biv colors. Not a must, just a preference so that when we're creating the color palette and breaking it into the 60-30-10, we have a little more going on than just sort of a muddy olive, a muddy gray, and a muddy sort of metallic coppery brown. It doesn't feel so fresh in here, even though it feels contemporary. You know what else is missing for me here? Just looking at the pictures. It looks like on one wall I do see a mirror, but when I'm looking at a space, I'm asking myself, are the elements represented in terms of wood, stone, fabric? Thinking about those feng shui elements so that we can feel a sense of balance with the materials. And one thing that's missing is the water element, which can take place by purchasing either something glass or something mirrored. That reflective quality of a mirror mimics looking at yourself in water. So for me, you're really representing the other elements well, but it's just the glass or mirror that I'm missing. And from one of the vantage points, it appears that we do have a circular mirror, but I can't tell for sure. Speaking of circular, you know I have one more thing to talk about. Okay, I have two more things. Okay. Circles are very special shapes. They are wonderful in that most furniture and a lot of architecture is very rectilinear or square. Lots of right angles, whether it's a doorway, a window opening, whether it's a sectional bend, whether it's a TV stand corner. There's just so many right angles in a space that I love to break a space up with curves. Now, a circle is probably the most obvious and easiest to purchase and find kind of curved shape. And of course, I love a circle within an L-shaped sectional. I like a circular mirror, things like this. In this case, I think you've got too many circles because when something's special, it needs to be used judiciously. We have a large circular mirror, it appears. We have two circular end tables. We have a circular coffee table and we have a circular bowl atop the TV stand. For me, you are taking the uniqueness, the specialness of the circle and using it in such a large quantity that it becomes not special. What I would have done is probably made the end tables square, rectilinear, triangular, so that way that coffee table and the mirror really sing. One more thing I'm seeing, just something for us all to learn from. You have a black TV stand, and I love using an element of black in every space. I feel like it just really puts all the other colors in perspective since black is all the colors combined and just looks classy and timeless. And yes, one bit of black at least in every room. You have the black drum coffee table and you have this black TV stand, or maybe it's not a TV stand. I don't necessarily see a TV. It's like a console. Okay. Atop the console, you have this really cool, looks like hand-hewn clay bowl. But the hand-hewn clay bowl is glazed in black. When I'm layering things and accessorizing things, I don't want to put a similar material on top of a similar material. And you're saying, Betsy, that's not a similar material. That is a wood-painted console, and that is a clay bowl. But when you squint, when you're on the other side of the room looking at this side, you just see two blobs of black. Because there's no clear wood grain with this console, because there's just a solid glaze on the bowl, they really look to be the same material from afar, and there's no contrast. If you'd put this clay bowl on the end table, that had the white marble top and put a decorative tray in maybe a pop of that olive color or even a mirrored decorative tray on top of the console, well, I think it would really help with balance and it would certainly solve our contrast issue. So guys, I point this out because, yes, it's a little nitpicky and whatever, but I want you guys listening to be able to take something away from these experiences, from these pictures. Yes, this is not your house. Yes, you do not have the same problems that Carmen has, but I want you to think about your own house in terms of contrast, your own house in terms of circular shapes, and do your own check to make sure that you're not creating some of these same issues. We can all learn from Carmen's example. So thank you, Carmen, for sending in such great pictures. I really think you're on your way. And even though it's a little too muted for my personal taste, because you know I love me some color, I do think that there is a clear, talented, learned point of view here. It's clear that you've been listening to the podcast for a while because you've also mixed in leather, which I love and is really warming this space. It's clear that you've been listening, that you've been trying to mix and match, that you've been thinking about your layouts. I'm excited for you. I don't think you're too far away. Keep me posted on what you decide to do. And if you decided to bring in one more pop of color, I wouldn't be mad at you. Yeah, you've already got a green that's muted and muddy. Do we want to do something bright and bold? Something to think about. I've got to push you guys out of your comfort zones. Speaking of being pushed out of your comfort zones, okay, I was trying to make a great transition, didn't work out. I was right back in my comfort zone last week when Netflix released season 2 of America's Sweethearts. Now, this is all about the Dallas Cowboy Cheerleaders, and it really gets into sort of what they have to do in training, how they actually make the squad, the fact that the seasoned veterans aren't necessarily guaranteed more of a spot than the rookies. There are so many dynamics. And of course, I devoured this in 2 settings. My son popped in for one part of it and he was like, Mom, can I watch? I was like, okay. And he was hooked. Doesn't help that these girls are fabulously talented and gorgeous. That makes the show fun to watch just right there. But there are so many elements that I want to get into. So many thoughts I had having a daughter of my own and thinking about her being put in these scenarios. So let's dig into it. I hope you are as fascinated with Netflix's America's Sweethearts as I was. Now, let me just say, I preferred season 1. Season 1 was truly captivating. And it's probably because I knew absolutely nothing about this world of professional football cheerleading. I had watched Cheer on Netflix. Highly recommend. If you have not seen Cheer on Netflix, oh my God, you're in for a treat. Cancel all weekend plans and sit on your couch, please. But this really felt different and I learned a lot of new things. And just like Cheer on Netflix, with America's Sweethearts, the application process is so rigorous, especially because people are competing from all over the nation, maybe even the world. They said they get thousands of videotapes. And certainly ever since season 1 aired, now the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders are more popular than ever. So they're getting a ton of submissions. Then, of course, girls who made the squad, those veterans are coming back, as well as people who didn't make the squad the previous year and they're wanting to try again. And then, of course, we have these other people who've been handpicked from those thousands of videos. I think the rehearsal process, the rehearsal to be in the mix to be selected. So this isn't even like you've made the squad. This is the pre-work that you have to do to see if you're going to get on the squad. I just think it's almost abusive. There are so many different things you have to do. There is definitely a certain body type that you must have. If you happen to be too short or way too tall, you're just not going to fit in with what they're looking for. And we won't even get into the weight and facial beauty stuff, which for me is problematic. But I think that is the world of cheerleading. I think there are a lot of expectations around that physical beauty and these standards. And while I personally think it's a problem, and while I personally do not reinforce those things as important to my daughter or even my son, I understand their importance in cheerleading, which is why I don't want my daughter to be a cheerleader. Oh, God. There's so many superficial aspects to this job that is also so rigorous and so taxing physically. Like in the first season, they were talking about all these women who'd previously been on the squad who are damaged for life, who are walking around with a cane at age 30 because they did too many thunderstruck splits. And now they're all torn up and these things like are not repairing themselves because it was so repetitive and so extreme. So, in a lot of sports, when you get to an elite level, you are just damaging your body repeatedly. And that's part of the price you pay for the glory. But oh my God, I just felt so bad. And for that reason alone, like, is it worth 5 years of fun and glory to deal with a lifetime of pain in your prime? My answer is, of course, no. To deal with arthritis and torn ligaments. And I mean, yes. Okay. And then, of course, there was the whole scandal of them only making $15 an hour before. And I think that's just, I mean, everybody, the whole nation was in an uproar when season one aired and that was revealed because these women are taking such permanent tolls on their body. They are sacrificing so much to be there in terms of moving away from their home state, oftentimes not having enough time to hold down a regular job, or if they do try and hold down a regular job, it's at the expense of doing their best in tryouts, or ultimately, if they make the squad, this balancing act of, trying to have a partner, a relationship, or whatever. So just a lot going on. Um, and I'm glad that ultimately, spoiler alert, guys, if you're listening, but you've probably seen it online, at the end of this season, after the girls petitioned and things, they were awarded higher pay. Now, the thing that I think is really difficult about this is that Kelly's kind of the organizer, leader of the squad. She works for the Dallas Cowboys. She was a former cheerleader. And she tells the girls, I am not going to be a part of your pay conversations. Like, take that up with the Cowboys, but that just can't be a part of our discussion. But she knows which cheerleaders are kind of making the biggest fuss and being the squeakiest wheels. And I just feel like personally, she's privy to all of that. She has her own feelings about that. She's trying to keep her own job within the Cowboys organization. I think it's very brave of those cheerleaders to kind of stand up and take the strong stance. But I do feel like it would jeopardize your position on the team. And I feel like that's such a push pull. Like, Kelly would know who the rabble rousers are. Kelly would know who the discontents are. And that friction, I mean, I know from a small business standpoint, when there's somebody who's not working out, or when there's somebody with a bad attitude, or somebody who's disgruntled, that friction ripples. And we're a virtual team. These girls are working together side by side, day after day. You know that friction has got to be reverberating. I mean, I think it's a better thing to mention off season, but of course, what does that do? I just had lots of feelings about the tension that that must create, even though I'm totally on the side of the cheerleaders advocating for this raise. But I can imagine how stressful, how complex, how ostracizing that is. I mean, I was on a roller coaster with them. And I think, these women are discussing how they feel like a family, how they feel so bonded to each other, how they feel like they have one another's backs. Meanwhile, Kelly is like telling some of these girls that, a little birdie told me that you're feeling XYZ, or little birdie told me that you're not working as hard as you could, or you're, doing these different things. It appears that there's an underbelly of like gossip and pettiness. And sometimes in organizations, and I'm not going to say exclusively women organizations, but I do think in terms of my experience that I have seen a lot of that, but I'm sure it goes for institutions that have men and all gender institutions, that there is this level of gossip and pettiness, but you'd feel like, who really has my back? We know that Kelly, the organizer, is on the side of the Dallas Cowboys almost no matter what. So she's not a safe space. Additionally, you could be cut tomorrow. There is no loyalty besides, are you good enough? Are you pretty enough? And then these other girls, are all trauma bonding through this tryout period. And even if you make the squad, all this second guessing, am I enough? I can't even imagine the body dysmorphia, the toxic eating habits that are happening here. I can't even go into that. And it bothers me a little bit that they don't show some of that, especially for girls watching. I was okay with my boy coming into the room and saying, "Oh, mom, what's this? I'll watch it with you." I would not have been okay with my daughter watching it because it is reiterating some messaging that I think is unhealthy. You see these girls at the diner eating burgers, eating pizza, eating junk food, and you don't see any ramifications. Now, maybe they're working it all off or whatever, but there's a lot going on. And while the body stuff is not really mentioned in season 2, it was a little bit more touched upon in season 1, frankly. In season 2, they touch a little bit on the gossip and the pettiness, but then all these girls are like, "These are my sisters. We are so close. We're family." It felt complicated and a little bit fake to me, but maybe that's how these places go, right? The trauma bonding's that intense that they overlook the fakeness. I did think that there is an alopecia storyline with one of the cheerleaders who has alopecia and decides to dance without her wig. I loved it. Again, going back to that body image and not having to show the perfect Barbie image in order to signify beauty and show that she's making the team and she has the skills and she just has this one issue. So I thought that was great. I wished that it wasn't like a one-off event. So she decides to take off her wig for one performance because she's furthering her own personal cause. She allied herself with a nonprofit and is kind of spreading the word about alopecia and things like this. So she takes one game to kind of spread the word about her particular charity of choice. I wish that it was a decision she could have made multiple times throughout the season to normalize it rather than just make it one moment in time. I think there was a lot to watch and a lot to take in, but those are the things that were on my mind as I was watching. Did you like it? What was on your mind when you were watching? Guys, I know in 3 months I'm going to watch it all over again because that's what I did with season 1. And I had so much fun rewatching. It's a fun watch. I would never let my daughter go down this toxic path. But if you are talented, if you have the skills and the dream, I think this is a very interesting show and a must watch. Whether you want to go into cheerleading or showbiz, this is how it all goes down. Thank you so much for listening, everybody. I can't wait to talk more next week about my latest TV obsession. Now that I've finished America's Sweethearts, I'm on to other things, and I can't wait to tell you all about it, as well as digging in this mailbag. Do you have questions for the podcast? I am here for you. Head to affordableinteriordesign.com/podcast. Once again, that's affordableinteriordesign.com/podcast. Once you're there, you'll see a form to fill out to send me your questions, send me your pictures, and I will answer it on an upcoming show. Until then, bye, everybody. A big thank you to our amazing producer, Katherine Heller, to Aton and the MVCR House Band, and to Affordable Interior Design, the sponsor of this podcast and the premier place to get an amazing look on a budget. Check out affordableinteriordesign.com. If you guys love the show, the very best way to support us is by spreading the word. Tell your friends or write us an awesome review on iTunes. So until next week, guys, thanks so much for joining us, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.